And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I am your host, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with another off-season supporter series. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there is no footy on right now, but we gotta keep footy alive during these long summer months in Australia and the long winter months up here for me up here in the great US of A. So I thought let's have some fun and find some fans. Not from Australia, but from the US or international to talk this great game that is Aussie rules. And today, joining me from Tennessee, I cannot wait to talk to this gentleman. I ran into him a few weeks, just a little while back, and I had to have him on. We have Logan joining us. Logan, thanks for hopping on the podcast
Yeah.
today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Oh,
Kentucky.
oh, Kentucky. I knew it was in
Yeah.
that area. My
Yeah.
apologies.
Yeah. It's like,
Kentucky.
it's one of the,
Close enough. Close enough.
no,
At
yeah,
least, at least I did.
exactly.
At least
Yeah.
I didn't say you were from
Yeah.
Ohio.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. We're all right. We're
uh,
good. We're good.
All righty, let's jump right into it. Before we get
Yeah.
into the footy part of the podcast, I thought I like getting to know the people that I'm chatting with just a little bit. So if you want just a little bit about yourself outside of the game of football.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, not too much. I mean, just like I don't I don't do a whole lot outside of just like, you know, sports is pretty much what I'm into. Just like regular job, regular person, listen to a lot of podcasts. It's like, and that's how I come across your podcast and all that, like looking for more Americans into it and everything. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, hey, a man of simple means there's nothing
Yeah,
wrong with
yeah,
that. So let's hop into it, sir. This is a footy
yeah.
podcast, so we got to talk about it.
Mhm.
And
That's right.
being an international supporter, I love doing this. What is
Yeah,
your finding footy story?
yeah. So it's I guess it's I don't know if it'd be like similar to anyone else, but so first it was rugby for me. It was rugby and it was like the World Cup
Hmm.
2 years ago now. So like that was the first thing I ever really because I mean I was aware of it, obviously I knew about it, but I just always kind of thought of it as like, football without helmets or whatever. So that leads into I actually work with a guy that's from Sydney. So he puts me on to NRL. And then through that, I'm just like looking into more stuff and I come across footy and I'm like, what is this? Like, it's got everything. It's got rugby, it's got a little bit of soccer, it's got a little bit of like American football. It's like this amalgamation or whatever they say, like of all these different things. So that was like, and so then it was like, and then I started reading like about it on Reddit, and then found out like they had like the subscription service, easy to watch, like for international fans. Boom, I'm in there, and like, yeah. So I guess it was really probably about like early midway of the 24 season that like I caught on the wave, and like that was, and ever since then, pretty much like watching all the games that are on the service from like 23 that are still up there, 24, like finding anything on YouTube I can, so on and so forth. Obviously, like podcasts, your podcast, like lunchtime catch up, uh, Don the Stat, like those are more Essendon focused, obviously, but
Hmm.
so yeah, and so it just kind of spiraled from there, like and it's really become like one of my main things that I like follow now and read about, listen to podcasts about, and like all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Awesome. That is
yeah,
fantastic. Again,
yeah,
everybody's story is different. I've had people
yeah,
find it on YouTube. I've had people find
hmm,
it on ESPN. I've had people find
hmm,
it purely on the fact that they ran into an Australian, they talked about it, so they had to go find it.
right,
I
yeah.
love,
And it's funny because
go
well,
ahead.
just I was gonna say just because now like it's like now so um just a Twitch streamer that I watch, like they have friends in Australia, and like one time he's streaming, like he's wearing like a Collingwood jersey because like he got it from his friend over there, and
Mhm.
I'm just like, oh, like I know what that is, like whatever, like of the 30,000 people, right? Like how many know what that is? Like outside of Australia, it's just like it's little stuff like that. Cool.
It's and it's the cool is the one of the coolest things is like I said is as you get into internet and the world kind of gets smaller is that you start
Mm-hmm.
finding friendships and all that. So I gotta ask this.
100%.
So as you're going through it, you transition from rugby and you get into footy. So I
Mm-hmm.
gotta ask, what's your
Mm-hmm.
favorite part about this wonderful sport that is Aussie rules football?
I think my favorite part is like I like the physicality of it because like on the face of it, it doesn't seem like just like if you see like a highlight package or whatever, it wouldn't seem like because with rugby, it's like they always show like the huge hits, like the kickoff, like that kind of like American football style like
Hmm.
physicality. But what I like about footy is it has like that rugby, like almost like where it's like free tackle, like anywhere across the field. But like also like it's almost like soccer and basketball physicality a little bit with like the bumping around, like the ruck and like all of that. So and it's like as you watch it, it's like, oh, it's like they're tough and like you have to be obviously like almost soccer, like soccer like or more probably like level of fitness,
Hmm.
on top of that. So I think it's just all of that. Like I like the physicality of it. And honestly, like I love the fan culture aspect, like, just like how it's so centralized in like one place. Obviously, like it's big all across Australia, but like starting in one place, it's just like we just don't have like we don't really have anything that's like comparable like that over here,
Hmm.
where it's so tied to like the communities, and it's like that's always appealed to me of like European soccer, same kind of vibe, like
Hmm.
where it's like the club, because like in America, it's like obviously love American sports too, but it's very compared to footy and like European soccer, it feels very commercial,
Hmm.
very sanitized. Yeah, like it's like you don't really notice that
It's
until
more entertainment than it actually is
yeah,
sport. Like
exactly.
it, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah,
No, I get it, and I
yeah,
100% agree. I agree with that. It's one of the things that
yeah.
I've said. I said USC. Many people over here in the states are like, we got some great fans. I said honestly, I said all you have to do is go on YouTube, type in European basketball fans or European soccer fans,
Oh,
and they will blow
yeah,
American supporters to
yeah.
shame because
It's crazy,
it is a lifestyle. Like you live and breathe the
really.
club, and I agree with you. I think for many Australians, I agree with it. It is kind of the lifeblood. Like whatever sport, like
Yeah.
if you're an NRL fan, you identify as that NRL team. If
Yes.
you're a footy
Yes.
fan, when you ask people, most of the time that's the first thing that everybody wants to know is who's your club, who's your club,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's how you
Oh,
identify. So it's really
love it.
that cool culture. So I'm
Yeah,
100%
definitely.
with you on that one. I love this one
Hmm.
just because I've had the pleasure of playing, I've had the pleasure of coaching.
Hmm.
So I ask
Hmm.
people, have you ever played? And if not,
Yeah.
would you if you could?
Yeah. So I haven't, obviously, yeah. And I mean, so it's like, would I? It's like, in theory, I would love to. Yeah, I think
Hmm.
like I would. It's like it would be. It's like I'm thinking, I'm 34, like I'm as out of shape as could be, like and anything. So play it. Would I play it? Probably. I would. I'd like to. Well, no, no, not at all. I wouldn't play it well. That's for sure. But no, but yeah, it would be fun. It would be fun to play for sure.
Well,
Um,
I tell a lot of people it doesn't matter whether you play it well or not. It is a great
yeah,
community. If you can find a
for
club
sure.
here in the States and you connect to
Oh
it,
yeah,
they can be quite the community. So
yeah,
100% with you on that one.
definitely.
So as you said, you started off with NRL. So when was it
Hmm.
that you kind
Hmm.
of like how is it that you found the AFL? Did you go like
Yeah.
searching for it or did
So
somebody give you
honestly,
that?
no, yeah. So honestly, like with the way that like I guess it's just like everything is on an algorithm now. With the
Mhm.
way like Reddit and YouTube was working, it was like once I was in the NRL subreddit and
Mhm.
in like had watched some NRL YouTube videos, it's like boom, boom, boom. Like before you know it,
Yep.
it's like it's like suggested
You
AFL,
may like
AFL.
this. Yep.
Right, exactly. So yeah, so really it was just that simple of like it like snowballed for lack of a better term, like from oh, it's like rugby, and then it's like oh, it's NRL, and oh, that it's footy, and it's like because it's just like we were talking about before we even started, it's like with the internet now, it's like anything, it's like you'd be hard pressed to find something that people aren't into somewhere and talking about, and it's like
Mhm.
it's so easy to once you kind of like step down that road just a little bit, it's like it starts throwing more stuff at you, and you just never know like what you'll come across. So yeah, so really, I guess I could thank like the AFL like subreddit, because that was like the first thing I ever saw, and yeah, and so I was already kind of like primed for it from obviously the NRL like
Mhm.
intro, yeah, and so that was that.
That's fantastic. Like I said,
Mm.
and I specifically asked that question because for some people it's like, well, isn't footy and AFL? I've had many people say it's like footy and AFL are two different things. Footy is the sport. The
Uh-huh.
AFL is the profession is
Is the
the
league right?
professionals. So that's why I try to separate them in the questions.
Hmm.
I've been meaning to kind of address that a little bit because some people are like,
Yeah.
it's really easy. Well, it's actually not because in situations
Right.
like mine, sometimes like some of the guys I know up here, they start playing it before they even start looking at the
Mhm.
professionals. So,
Oh yeah, right.
so it
Yeah.
happens all the time. So you've teased it a couple of times, and
Mm.
those that have watched the YouTube video probably noticed the Guernsey that you're wearing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I got
There
to
you
talk
go.
about it.
Yeah.
Let's get to it.
Yeah.
Who is your club in
Yeah.
the AFL and why?
Yeah. So Essendon is my club. Yep, the Bombers. And so I actually, it's funny because I got asked this because like I say we talked about it earlier, and I joined the Discord for lunchtime catch up podcast. So I got talking to people in there, obviously like from the
Hmm.
states, and so they're like, oh, it's like, and one of the first things they asked is like, so how'd you come to like Essendon? So it's like we're talking about getting into footy and everything. It's like one of the main things for me is like I love the fan culture of it, love that aspect, how tied people are to the club, how tied clubs are to their community, so on and so forth. So like as I'm reading through all this stuff, like when I first get into it, like drinking out of a fire hose on the subreddits
Pretty
and
much. Yep.
all. Yeah, right. So I'm seeing kind of like I'm obviously like very anti. I never want to be like a bandwagon. So
Hmm.
anybody that was like super high up, I had to like cross them. I could. It's like if they just won or if they've
Hmm.
like whatever. So then I'm kind of like rolling through like the rest, and it was just like with Essendon, it was obviously like a club with a lot of history, a lot of successful history, but also like a long period of being down and like kind of like us against the world kind of mentality with a lot of their fans.
Hmm.
And so like I'm picking up on all that, and I that appeals to me, and I was like, yeah, they kind of got like they're kind of in their rebuilding phase right now, and so that was kind of and then obviously I'm from Kentucky, from Louisville, so red and black is like that's I'm predisposed to liking that. So that was it. And like I told him, it was like it was really it's because at the time it's like I couldn't go off of like you know
Hmm.
because I remember listening to you at one point do a podcast, and you were talking about how you like Sydney because of like how they play, like their style and all that.
Hmm.
And I'm still like not, I couldn't tell you right now like what the ins and outs of like, so it was gonna have to be along the lines of like fan culture, kind of like where their standing was, like as far as like on the face of it, and like as I've gotten more into it, it's like say I've got discords where and there's like a chat room website where people it's like almost like a live chat kind of thing that people
Hmm.
talk all day and stuff. So it's like it's just it's been easy to ever since I kind of like picked to be it's like chose Essendon and whatever, and it's like it kind of has gotten easier, and I've gotten more. I was like, oh yeah, it's like I made the right, like I was
Hmm.
glad to yeah, so
Well,
yeah.
I tell most people that I've kind of come up with a little bit of a system to help out because I've got some players that I've helped coach up here that they get into it, but sometimes it takes them a little while before they
Oh, for
decide to
sure.
pick a club. And I tell them, I said I've kind of come up with a thing that I've really kind of developed a little bit through watching the game and everything like that to the point where
Mm-hmm.
I can ask them. I says, so what kind of teams do you like? What kind of play style do you like? And the
Mm-hmm.
guys that I've given teams to, they've literally looked at me later and gone, Coach, you were like that was like perfect.
It's like good call. Yeah,
Yeah,
good
so
call. Yeah, for sure.
it really is. It kind of to each their own. Everybody's going to pick their club
Yeah.
Everybody's going to pick their club differently.
Yeah.
as of now that I've known everybody that I've ever talked to, usually the club that they pick is the club that they pick, and they don't usually jump. It is the one thing I
No.
give Americans a little bit of shtick over is sometimes we're
Oh, the
fickle and
bandwagon,
and
right?
and we
Mm-hmm.
exactly and we bandwagon a little bit. So
Oh,
I
for
gotta I
sure.
gotta give you a round of applause, sir, that you
Yeah.
made sure that you
Thank
took
you.
that
Thank you.
off
Yeah.
that. So that is really
Oh,
cool.
yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. That's like, that's grounds for like dismissal as like a sport. It's like a I don't think there's like an Australian equivalent of like a Cowboys, Lakers, Yankees fan or whatever, but yeah, like no, 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 no. Never that. Never that.
Well, I would say with most people that if you want to take the the kind of love them, hate them. I would
Mm-hmm.
equivalate the New York Yankees to the Collingwood Magpies
Oh
for a
yeah. Oh
lot of
yeah,
people
for sure.
because
Yeah.
it is one of those where it's like you either love them or you hate them.
Mm-hmm.
It is
Oh yeah,
there is
absolutely.
no there very rarely now. I think with Craig McRae coming into the league these last couple of years and Collingwood, a lot of people have kind of fallen in love with him because he is
Mm-hmm.
so non-assuming because he is so happy-go-lucky that I think it's kind of changing the culture a little bit with Collingwood a little. But
Yeah.
if you ask most people, I mean, that literally is, if you ask them, what's the team that is either a love hate, it's Collingwood most of the
It's
time.
them.
And if you
Yeah.
ask most
Yeah.
people up here, the New York Yankees, the Dallas
Oh.
Cowboys, and
Mm-hmm.
like the LA Lakers or Boston
Yeah.
Celtics, it's the same
Yeah.
thing. You
Celtics.
either
Yeah.
love them or you
Mm-hmm. Oh
detest
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
there is, but it's not as visceral sometimes
Yeah. Right.
as some of the
Yeah. For
fans up
sure.
here, just because there is that annoying part of being
That
able to bend the
bandwagon.
rules, where with
Mhm.
Collingwood is just more of it's just more of the way I think that they've been one of those teams a lot. They won a lot, they did a lot of
Mhm.
winning, and they do a lot of trash talking as they
Yeah.
do it. So that's kind of how that
Right.
goes. So I
Yeah.
always love this because again, up here in the States, it's not easy to get a hold of merchandise. It is
Mhm.
not. So I
Yep.
ask this,
Yep.
what is the first club item from Essendon that
Mhm.
you ever were
Mhm.
given or bought?
This is actually it right here. Yep. So it's
Crazy.
last season's. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. So it had to be that. I actually have like a cap on the way too. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, so but it's not here yet, but yeah, so that's the first. I felt like because that's such like a unique thing to footy is the Guernsey, it's like the whole um it's just so different, than anything. I mean, it's like, to be the kind of sport that it is, physical and everything like that and outdoors, but then like to have the sleeveless, it's like that's
Mhm.
cool. It's cool. Yeah.
I tell several people, I said it's like 1970s basketball uniform, short shorts and short
Exactly.
sleeves t-shirts.
Yeah, yeah,
It's kind of a
100%.
perfect description. So
Vintage, yeah,
yep.
vintage, yeah. It's a
So
good
that
look.
is fantastic. I know the scarf has become another one
The scarf,
that's
yeah,
very popular in
yeah.
in Australian rules in
I
Australian
need to
rules
get
footy.
one for the wall. Yeah, I need for the wall for sure. Yeah,
Definitely
that'd
for
be
sure.
good.
So
Yeah.
all right. So as I said, fandom for me is something that I think is so unique because nobody fans exactly the same. If you ask any
Mm-hmm.
fan in any sport in any part of the world, nobody will ever fan exactly the same. So I like
Right.
asking this because some people, one of those, some people would classify as diehard. I get up at 2 in the
Mm-hmm.
morning to
Oh,
watch
right.
the
Mm-hmm.
games. I do it.
Yeah, I've heard you say that. Yeah.
Exactly. So I ask
Mm-hmm.
this. Can you describe your fandom of the Essendon Footy Club to me?
Yeah. So I'm definitely not as hardcore as that. Like
There's nothing wrong
I
with that.
can't, yeah, I can't operate on the Australian schedule, but yeah, but no, like I will say like Freddie, and obviously I have no experience with being like a foreign fan of American sports, so maybe they do the same thing elsewhere, but
Mhm.
just like the accessibility of uh, AFL, like to just easy 3 clicks and you're in there, you get the whole thing, like you get the live channel that runs, like, so it's like, for me, it's always like, uh, first thing, wake up the next day, catch the game, and then I try and like for me, a huge part of it obviously is just the community of like say being in the Discord server, having the podcast, like listening to you know uh listen to the fans, like listen to fan podcasts, but then also listen to like the more mainstream kind of like coverage of it down there. Starting to pick up on just like what what the vibe is with people feeling about the club and everything. And I would say most all of it, is something that, and I guess it's like like we've talked about kind of the whole time. It's just like a function of the internet. Like my entire fandom, because like my friends, like they've asked me that, like they're familiar with me liking it and stuff, but it almost all takes place with like my friends online and like watching it. And because I'm not sure, I really don't know if there's that much of a community for it around here as far as like people playing it, as I know with you're involved in and coaching and everything like that. So much of it so far has just been online podcasts, Twitter, Discord, and then obviously watching the games. And since I'm newer, going back watching older games, like anything I can come across on YouTube, obviously. So
Mhm.
yeah, like we talked about, it's been like drinking out of a fire hose, but it's cool. I love it. Like obviously.
It's it is one of those where it's a lot of fun. And again, like I said, everybody fans differently. Like I said,
Mm.
I've had friends from my Swans things be like, Coach, you're nuts. Like you're legitimately nuts.
Yeah.
You wake up at 4 in the morning when they start at
No,
four.
that's sick.
But it is one of those where it's like it's a passion thing. Plus, it's
Yeah,
also the fact.
respect.
Well, I've told the story. I'll tell it to you after. But I've told the story. I don't know if you've heard it of how I had a game ruined by a friend of mine up here.
Mm,
So I have
mm.
that's why I have
And that
never
was
missed.
it.
That's I
Okay.
can't do it. I can't do it. So
Yeah,
that's why I
okay.
haven't missed. So
Gotcha.
we'll wait
Yeah.
until after the podcast. I've told it a few times on the podcast, and I don't want to
Yeah.
make people hear the story again. So I'll tell you. I'll
Yeah.
tell you after. But it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. It's an
Yeah.
Australian mate of mine that I had to get a kick out of that one. So I asked, as you said, you're kind of drinking from a fire hose. So
Mhm,
I'm interested
mhm,
to see, have you dove into the past a little bit? Because my next question is there a favorite player that you have of the past, previously to the
mhm,
previous seasons? And then do you have a
mhm.
favorite player currently on the Essendon list?
Yeah. So as far for past player, I can't say that I have, just because I haven't watched it. So like I've watched like the 2000 final because it's in full on YouTube and everything like that.
Hmm.
So I've seen that kind of stuff, but like say not familiar enough to have like picked out a player
Hmm.
from that era. Current wise, current team wise, current list wise, obviously, I love Merritt just because he's like kind of heart and soul leader,
Hmm.
gets in there, tackles. But then I really like Langford a lot because I think that he, from what I understand, like he didn't start out as forward,
Hmm.
and then he's kind of like transitioned to that, and he's kind of like, in my, it seems like to me like he's one of our better forwards now, and obviously like ever since I started picking up on Essendon and everything, it's like the Kako hype was there already, and it's like
Hmm.
now he's here, and it's like I watched the draft, saw him get drafted, and everything like that. Seems like a good kid, and he's been doing well at training from what I can see and everything. So I'm really excited for him, see Caddy, because I think him and Caddy are buddies from like school. So see them kind of grow, and hopefully, it's like laying the groundwork for something good in the future.
Hmm.
So that's I would say that's probably my three or four that I like the most.
I love Zach Merritt. He's
Oh yeah,
one of my favorite one of my favorite non-Swan guys that I love watch
for
play.
sure.
The guy's an absolute dog. Absolutely
He's a great
love
man.
him to death.
He's an animal.
I cannot wait to see Nate Caddy grow up and play even more.
Yes,
I'm hoping play even more this year. He
I
was
hope
one of
so.
those I could not wait to see him, and I think he showed the flashes of brilliance that I think a
Mhm.
lot in the Essendon camp are hoping will be a little bit more
Oh,
consistent as the years go on. So we'll ask this, as you said, you dove into it. You're now a
mhm,
full-fledged guy when it comes to the Essendon
mhm,
Bombers. Your thoughts on
mhm,
this last season? Because
mhm.
unfortunately, it fall just a bit short of finals. The final a little bit short of finals this year. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, no playoffs per se,
Mhm,
as we say up here. Finals down in
mhm, mhm.
Australia.
Yeah.
So your thoughts on Essendon this year?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like say not making finals, and I think that was disappointing, especially like after the start. But I think also it's one of those things where rebuilds. It's like you just never know, and it's like they don't all follow the same progression. It's like sometimes, um, you know, like I think I don't know. I think I'd almost, even though it was disappointing, and I think it could have been good for, you know, for them to get there, and uh, even if they lost, in the first round. But I think also going forward, I think that's something that you can always use as like motivation for this coming season. Like, okay, so last year, obviously, like it's like so close, and we kind of fell apart towards the end, and this and that. But it's like I think now it's like you have, I mean, Stringer left. That's one, but like for the most part, everybody that was on that team, everybody that was important on that team is back. And it's another year under the coach, and another, it's like more new blood coming in that is obviously people are excited about. So I think it's something where it's one of those things where it's almost like you can kind of like delay that gratification of like this group getting there until it's like, okay, now it's like, and now it's like, all right, now you use that as motivation for this season. It's like, say like 85-90% of the guys that were on the field last year, knowing what that was like to have that miss, it's like they're not going to want to have that happen again this year.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it's one of those things where it's like you always want to get there, but then it's like once you don't, you kind of have to hope that it's something that doesn't weigh on you, but that kind of propels you forward.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm hoping for.
Well, I don't 100% with you on that one. The one
Yeah.
thing for me, and it's maybe just because listening to all the things is that for me, I just want Essendon to have some success because they've had so long since they've actually had a finals win. I mean,
Mm.
there still is the dreaded website that keep tracks of the days that Essendon
Yeah.
hasn't
Right.
won a final.
Exactly.
And I think
Yeah.
every Essendon fan just really wants the day when that they can deactivate that website
Right. It's
because
like
they
get
have a
there. It's
win.
like
So
get there. Yeah.
there are
It's
parts of
coming.
me. I have a feeling that they're building something. I think they did a lot of good things last year in the free agency period. I think Kaka was a brilliant bring in. The best part
Yes.
is they
Yeah.
kept pieces. They didn't lose. They didn't
Yeah.
except for Stringer. They pretty much kept all the pieces
Yeah.
in house. Especially with there for a while, potentially the thought process Darcy Parish might find his way to another Guernsey. So to be able to
Hmm.
keep him, honestly, I'm
Yeah.
100% with you. Like I think there's a lot of things to look forward to, which is kind of a
Yeah.
great transition for me. Is that we'll look at next year again. We're only a few months away. The fixture's already out. So I look at you, sir. Your thoughts on the upcoming season? Will we see Essendon make finals?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think this year, like I'm willing to say I think we'll make it. And I don't necessarily think, um, I don't think it's one of those things where it's like, oh, we're gonna like shock everybody next year and like and get to the grand final or anything like that. But I think it's like we were saying earlier, it's like you can see the plan, like you can see the building blocks, and it's like, and now it's like I think with that motivation of like coming up short last year, being close, but kind of like close but no cigar again. It's like I think this year with Kako coming in, with Caddy taking another step forward, those guys, and then like say with everyone that had a real significant part to play last year and going through like not getting there again. I just think this year, um, those it's like the new blood mixed with the kind of like group that's been around trying to build it for a little bit, like putting it together. I see that propelling us. I don't see the fall off that happened last year. I don't think you're going to see that this year, and I think we get there.
Gosh, I sure hope so. For many of
Thank, thank.
for many of the Essendon supporters, I really
Yeah,
do hope so. I think it'd be fantastic both for the club
yeah,
and for the AFL if
yeah.
Essendon is up and about. So let's have some fun. I love this because over here in the States, we love everybody wants to be the general manager. Everybody thinks they can
Hmm.
do that job. Everybody
Hmm.
thinks put me in the general manager spot. I'll build a championship. It's easy, and it
Yeah.
isn't, but I want to have some fun because they
Yeah.
call the general manager the list manager. So for one
Hmm.
day,
Hmm.
I'm going to install you as the list manager at the Essendon Bombers. You can bring
Hmm.
in one player from
Mm.
any of the other teams to round out this Essendon Bombers team to make the finals and to maybe get that streak over with. Who's that
Yeah.
one guy you bring over to the Dons?
So I would say, so it's funny because there's one person in the Discord that I'm in, and they are so keyed in on getting Harley Reid, and it's just like, so I feel like I would be like a horrible person if I didn't say that, because like I'm talking about like somehow like they will find a way that like whatever, it's like there's different channels, for different things or whatever, and it'd be like
Mhm.
Harley Reid comes up all over the place. So yeah, so I think that would be who I'd have to bring in, uh, if I got the chance, if only for like brownie points in Discord, which like it
He
is what it is. But yeah.
he would be quite the addition to the Dons if he did.
Oh yeah.
I will tell
Oh
you that
yeah.
if he did, he would be quite the addition to the Dons.
Yeah.
I think it'd make you
Fingers crossed.
quite the scary team with your midfield if you
Oh
could put
yeah.
Merritt, Parrish, and Reed all in that midfield. That would be
Oh yeah.
quite a lot of fun.
I
So
hope so.
I'm gonna jump to this next one because everybody knows that listens to my podcast. I am a huge advocate of the women's game. I think the women's game
Yeah.
is incredible. I think the
Yeah.
growth of it is
Same.
so much fun. So I ask you, sir, do you keep an eye on the AFLW
Yes.
first? And if you do, okay, your thoughts
Hmm.
on Essendon's season this last year because
Yeah.
a finals berth unfortunately fell a little bit
Yes.
short in the finals. But
Yeah.
again,
But I would. Yeah.
Maddie Prasparkas and the Bombers with another great season.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. So I do follow it, and because, like, say, getting into it, it's like when the AFL season was over with, it was like AFLW was still kind of going on. So that kind of helped me like keep
Hmm.
having like current stuff to go with, and then um, and yeah, like them making the finals, I was really proud like of them to do it, because I know like Bonnie, she got injured,
Hmm.
and she's like a big part of the team and everything. And then Amy Gaylor, she's I think this was her first year, and she kind of
Hmm.
come on the scene and like played well and everything. And like you said, Sparkus is like kind of like the to me, I kind of look at her as like she's kind of like the like Merritt is for like the AFL team. It's like kind of like heart and soul type
Hmm.
leader. Yeah. So I mean, and like say, I was really glad um to like have the, because I know Bonnie went out early, and then for them to go on that run that they went on. I think they won like their last like 6 or 7 games, something like that. They went on like a
Hmm.
big run, and like they got to the finals, and yeah, like I say, come up short, but at the same time, it's like we're talking about with the AFL team, it's like they can use not making the finals, to help propel them forward. And I think with the AFLW, it's going to be the same thing where it's like this time though, it's like okay, so they're a little bit different. They're at a little bit different level of building than the AFL team is, but now they've been there. Now they've made it to the finals, and they didn't win a game, like you said. So now, so much of that team is back, adding to it through the draft. Like, and now you just hope that, okay, now they've had that taste. Now, they want to get more, and can get
Hmm.
back and do that. So I think
Well,
they can.
it's going to be fun to watch this Bombers team. And again, I keep saying this and I'll continue to say it. The AFLW is going to grow in leaps and bounds over these next few years with each of
Yeah.
these new draft classes coming in. The talent is ridiculously good.
Mhm.
I cannot wait to watch it. The Bombers are a fun team to watch. So many talented superstars, as you said. Bonnie, always too good. I absolutely love
Yeah,
her to death.
yeah,
Maddie Persparkis,
yeah. She's
Georgia
great.
G, so many great ones. The Dawn, the red and black.
Yeah,
So it'll be fun. So we're gonna kind of slowly start winding down. So I'm gonna have some fun with some and do some questions here that I think could be
yeah,
interesting. So I gotta ask, sir, as a footy fan, I think one of the things that we all kind of talk about it in the group is when you going to make your pilgrimage. Have you ever been
yeah.
to
Right.
Australia to see a game? And if not, do you plan to?
So I have not, no, but I would love to. Yeah, it would be. That's definitely one of like the bucket list places that I would love to go and get to go to a game and everything. Just because, like we talked about, like you see so much of like how important just like the community is, fan culture, like going to MCG, just like um and how like so much, and I see it with just like in the Discord, like they have so much shared experience of just like places and things and times and all that. And so to be able to go down there, see all of it, be a part of it. Yeah, I mean, it would be that's bucket list stuff for sure. Absolutely.
All
Um,
right.
yeah,
No, no, it's the one thing, like I said, I'm going to figure out one way to do it
100%.
at least
Yeah,
once for sure.
you got
So
to do it. Like
it's
you
always
said,
the fun one.
pilgrimage. Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, okay, so we'll make sure that the next few questions are asked in the next way. So, since you haven't been there, is there something
Mhm.
that when you go down, food wise, that you really want to try when you go down if when you go down to see a footy match?
Yeah, I gotta have one of the pies. Gotta
Meat
have the
pies.
pie. Yeah, yeah, because like I like meat and dough. Like I mean, you had me at hello. Like I've rarely come across such a combination that like I didn't like. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that's 100%. That's got to be number one. Yeah,
Yep, absolutely.
absolutely.
That is the common answer so far
Yeah.
into it. I know with the Australians that I've talked to, surprisingly, as they call them, hot chips or French fries,
Okay.
are really big at the footy for sure.
Yeah. Huh.
Especially if you go over to South Australia, then they have chicken salt to put on that,
Okay.
which is an interesting little
Yeah.
addition.
I would try.
So
Yeah.
so when you go, is there an ideal place that you want to sit? Do you want to sit close to the field? Do you want to sit up in the higher levels to see all the movement? Where do you think will be the ideal place to sit when you go to the footy?
Yeah, I think so. If I'm only going once, and typically, I'm with you on that. Like being up higher, especially at like basketball, like that kind of stuff. Like it's a better vantage point, for the game. But if I'm going once, like I gotta be close. I gotta be in like the as close as I can be to like the group with the banners and going crazy and everything. Like just to I feel like if you're only gonna do it once, you gotta experience like you gotta get that experience of being in the right in the thick of it. Yeah.
Mhm. No,
Yeah.
completely get it. I've had many an offer. I know I'm gonna try if I go to multiple games so I can get one game up a little bit higher so I can watch, and then I want to do one game down in the supporters in the fan section. I want to do one near the giant palm post.
Yes,
If I get
absolutely.
opportunity, I want to do
100%.
one where I'm down with the other with down with the cheer squad. I want to do it
Yes,
just once.
100%.
That'll be fun. So.
Absolutely.
And then last but not least, and again, and my last question that I ask, and this is just fun because I've been able to put together a fun list of games here. So my last question I ask is favorite game of footy you have ever seen, whether you watched it delayed, whether you watched it live, doesn't matter. Favorite game of football you have ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because I think I'll actually say it was, even though we lost, it was Essendon women playing in the finals, because that was my first playoff game like as a club, first finals game as a club, and I felt proud for them, like going through kind of like the turmoil, like I said, of like the injuries and then never having gotten there before and then finally getting there. It was like, and like say, because um I'm still new to it and everything, so I haven't got to have that like too many of like the emotional like highs and lows of like you know full seasons worth bringing how that kind of unfolds. So for me so far, yeah, it was them getting there and being there representing the club, representing like the AFLW side, being like I know that like they weren't like they were kind of later to the game,
Mhm.
Essendon getting in on that. So them to kind of like to kind of have all that stuff as headwinds or whatever they say,
Mhm.
but then to still get there, I was really proud. So that I'm gonna say that.
And, hey, that is a fantastic, and I love it that it isn't just
Yeah,
because your team won, it's because of the
yeah,
accomplishment that they did. That is fantastic. I
exactly. Yeah,
absolutely love it. I know another thing when you get a chance, since you have the off season right now,
hmm
definitely look into the baby bombers, some of the 90s
hmm
stuff. And, and
okay,
and when you
yeah,
get a chance, ask some of your Reddit because there are some
hmm
absolutely magnificent teams that Essendon
oh
fielded
yeah,
during those time periods. They won a lot of games. There's some
yep,
absolute superstars. Dive into their history a little bit. Like I tell a lot of
definitely
people, like if you're just getting into it, trust me, the history of some of these teams is amazing. I remember
for sure.
when I found a video history of the Sydney Swans. And again, there were
Yeah,
many, many years that the Swans were absolute crap. They were the wooden spoon teams. But then
right,
finding out the history and then being able to talk with people that have seen this team that you support for 20, 30, 40 years, it's
oh yeah,
fantastic. So
that's awesome.
when you get the opportunity, get a chance to look up the baby bombers and go through
Baby
their
bombers.
history because this is an Essendon team that has 16 premierships. They're one of the
Yeah,
most
all right.
successful teams in the competition at all. So, Logan,
Yeah,
this has been fantastic. I love
thank you. Yeah,
finding American fans and fellow internationals that love this game. I know you're really early into it. This is going to be
yeah,
so much fun. I cannot wait to have you listening to the podcast. I'm going to
yeah,
chat with you during this season and when the Essendon game comes, let's have some banter a little bit, have some fun
yeah.
talking a little bit of
Sounds
crap
good.
between our teams. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So that is it.
Yeah.
Again, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. It has
Thanks for
been a
having me.
magnificent chat.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So that is going to do it, ladies and gentlemen, for this episode of Donnie's Disposals. Keep an eye out. More of these off-season supporter series still to come. I've got so many fans. I've got them coming out my ears. I'm trying to get them all scheduled in. This is going to be a blast. Right now, last time I looked, North Melbourne, I believe, is the only team that I do not have somebody
Come on. There's got to
as
be a
of right now.
roots.
There's got to be. I think I'll find somebody if I have
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
and then I may even do a couple of duplicates because I've got some people that I really want to talk with. So I
Yeah,
may
for
even
sure.
have some clubs where I do multiple. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Nice.
I'm going to get to the first week of March. And then we're going to get back into the footy. Cannot wait. So that is going to do it for this episode of Donnie's Disposals. And we'll be back with more footy coverage very, very soon.